back, beautiful people. You are listening to HR Tech Unplugged, where we simplify the buzzwords, break down the tech, and bring you real world HR transformation talk. I'm your host, Gurpreet Kaur, and joining me, as always, is the human Google of HR Tech, transformation strategist, and my partner in podcasting crime, Anuj Kathuria.
Hey, Gurpreet, that's a very dangerous intro. I truly have to strive a lot to live up to that.
Friends, not all tools shine and some can bite. Let's decode the HR tech jungle. In today's episode, choosing the right HR tech stack, tools, trends, traps. We will get into details of choosing the right tech stack. Anuj, let's be honest. Today's HR leaders are flooded with tools. One moment, it's AI based hiring. Next moment, it's chatbots, pulse surveys, or predictive analytics.
Exactly. It's like shopping for a jacket or something and then being thrown away into an entire fashion show. In fact, many HR leaders I speak with or know of end up overwhelmed and under delivered. Now, here's a real story. A client I was offering my consulting services to once implemented 6 or 7 different tools across the employee life cycle. If I recall correctly, they had tools for performance management, employee engagement, onboarding, learning and development, and a main systems of record. All, and mind you, all best in class. But none of these tools spoke to each other. The result? Manual work, double work, zero insights, and user frustration. So think about it from a user standpoint. The user has to access 6 different tools to get basic journey being taken care of. What it leads to is insufficient infrastructures, broken architectures, undue load on IT resources, and who suffers? The poor employee, the poor user. Absolutely horrendous user and employee experience.
That's quite painful. So today we ask, how do you choose the right HR tech stack? Not the fanciest, the right one. Let's dive in. What is an HR tech stack really?
Well, that's a $1 billion question. I'm sure many people will answer this in very different ways. Let me try to keep it very simple and the most core level. Your HR tech stack is nothing but a collection of tools that you use to manage the employee life cycle, simply put. So, from the time somebody is a potential candidate for your organization, till the time he or she becomes an alum of the organization, there are over 200, 250 touch points, right? Now, all the tools, technologies that you deploy to ensure optimal level of employee experience. Now, those tools, technologies typically form your tech stack.
Correct.
Now, they typically include a core HR information system, which many people also call as your systems of record.
Okay.
All right. Then you have your applicant tracking system, which is typically used for your application or talent acquisition suite. Then you have employee learning and development tools. You have tools for talent management, tools for performance management, certain technologies or tools which are used for employee engagement, workforce analytics, payroll benefits, and increasingly over the course of last 5, 7 years, certain AI and machine learning tools like chatbots, nudging systems, predictive analytics, and so on and so forth.
That sounds like assembling a superhero squad.
Well, that's absolutely right. But remember, if your Avengers don't communicate, you just got chaos. And that is the reality which is brimming the HR tech world today.
Right. So let's look at the key trends shaping today's HR tech choices. What's trending in HR tech right now?
Gurpreet, we are living in a world where novelties of morning become obsolete by the evening. Businesses are impinged by what we call as this digital revolution, and more so in the HR standpoint.
Right.
Such revolutions always force us to walk down untreaded paths, uncharted territories. And that is what exactly is happening in the HR space. So let me try and simplify that into a couple of trends. Okay. The first trend, which you would see all across Europe, Americas, and for that matter of fact, more in APAC, is unified employee experience platforms, wherein the experience layer is getting lines blurred between communication, collaboration, and HR. The second trend is about skills first architecture.
Okay.
The tools, technologies are moving from jobs to skills. So they are more focused on the skills focused architecture. Number three is the infusion of artificial intelligence and machine learning from an integration standpoint. Whether you look at employee screening, whether you look at employee nudges, whether you look at JD/CV matching or talent marketplaces, talent matching, for that matter of fact, even attrition prediction.
Okay.
Number four is low code or no code HR tech. There are platforms that are enabling the HR teams to build workflows without the need for IT. And last but not the least, data driven everything. If your tool doesn't give you actionable insights, it's garbage, it's absolutely obsolete.
So, and of course, mobile first, right?
Well, that goes without saying. If it's not mobile, you are living in ice age, man.
Right. So let's help our listeners build their own HR tech Avengers. What's the selection strategy? How to choose a perfect framework?
Well, if you are assembling a squad of Avengers, you need to figure out, like I said, communication, collaboration, and absolute cohesion between them. So over the years, I have failed miserably in building the exact tech stack or making the right selections. But as they say, only once you fail, you learn the 99 ways not to do it.
Right.
And you learn the right way to do it. So I'm going to try and simplify that for our listeners. I call it the 5D framework. All right, D as in Delta. So the first one is the question, what's your use case? Okay. So define. The first D is define your use case. What's broken? What are you trying to solve? Is it speed of hiring or attrition or your manager capability, or you're looking at talent marketplace, or you're looking at something else? Why are you doing it? What's your use case? Unless you have that clearly defined to the T, you cannot move on to the next D. All right. Yeah. The next D is diagnose your user needs. So you need to deploy design thinking over here, run stakeholder interviews, speak to employees, HRBPs, IT, finance. You need to gather the real pain points, not the ones that you perceive are the pain points, but from the actual users. Right. Do affinity mapping, affinity diagramming, understand their pain points, understand the emotional connect, understand if they were part of this journey and if they had the autonomy to decide their journey, how would they decide? Right. So you need to do that. Then comes the third D, which is determination of fit, or what I call as determined fit. Now, do you want something that's on-prem? Do you want something that's cloud-based? Do you want something that's modular plug and play? Do you want something that's a complete suite? So for that, you need to take advice, or for that matter of fact, work hand in hand with your IT person. What's your IT policy? Every organization is governed by something. What are those principles? So you need to involve your CIO or your CTO to help you with that piece. Right. Number 4 is demo and deep dive. All right. So don't look at fancy dashboards or, great UIs. All right. Test integrations. Run your scenarios. Ask for customer success stories. So now there are two parts to this equation. This is when you are buying tech stack from the market, or picking up tools from the market. If you want to design something of your own, build something of your own, still you need to go through this entire process in terms of what exactly are those user needs. So you have done the use cases.
Correct.
From those use cases, you will figure out where exactly the pain points are. You will figure out the user needs after doing the interviews. You will figure out the IT policy, whether on-prem or cloud or whatever, right?
Right.
Now, in this demo and deep dive, if you're getting something from the market, you need to demo each and every element. But before you do that, ensure two things: that that particular tool or that particular technology doesn't force you to change your process to befit the technology requirement. Okay. Experience has to drive everything. That's paramount. It is not technology driving your process changes. It is experience. Right. If you're building something of your own, ensure that you know what are you trying to do. You know the user requirements. You know the journey. So, last episode we spoke about journey mapping. Right. So from that to make that journey come to life, what are the processes that you need to change? What things need to go out, whether it's a non-value add or whatever needs to go out, what needs to change? How will the technology or the tool, for whether one function or all functions, communicate with each other? Right. That's why I said test integrations for everything over there. Everything means everything. Run worst case scenarios. And if it's an external partner you're looking at, ask for their customer success stories. Last but not the least, decide with data. Okay. Evaluate on set matrix. You need to have a evaluation criteria, right? Ease of use, scalability, security, analytics, and definitely yes, pricing becomes a very important standpoint. Most organizations falter in this step because they don't involve the end user. So we think it's easy to use for us, but in somebody else's context, that might be a very different ballgame altogether. Not everybody works in the confines of an office. Some people are always in the field. Some people are in different context, geographical context, or different work context. So you need to have your user personas, test case, all this. So your matrix of deciding on data needs to include all these things. It's only once you do these basic ground rules can you move ahead. Otherwise, you are trying to build castles in the air, which gonna fall apart very soon. And can you talk about the cost? Where does this come into picture? How does the costing? That's a burning question, Gurpreet, to be very honest. If I tell you, cost is a very important element, and that, let's agree, that drives most of these conversations. But my recommendation and humble suggestion, don't chase the cheapest. It's not mandatory that the cheapest is going to give you something great, or for that matter, the most expensive one is going to be the best. It's not about that. It's about ROI, return on investment, or return on expectations. Chase ROI. Sometimes a higher upfront cost gives you better outcomes and a lower total cost of ownership, which typically finance calls TCO. Right. And sometimes it's reverse. It totally depends on the unison of what your use case, what your deep dives, and what the product offers are, and the costing, right? Depends on the scalability. A lot of factors go into this, but I would always say cost is important, but let it not be the deciding factor. So, having spoken about the 5D framework now, let's talk a little bit about the landmines. What are the biggest traps HR leaders fall into? Well, we call it the tech regret list. All right. And this is a Pandora's box of troubles. And there are many, I can go on talking on and on about these, but in the interest of time, I'll talk about some of my favorite ones and the most prevalent ones in today's time and age. Trap one is called the feature fatigue. All right. buying a platform with 500 features but needing only 10. I mean, we also do that, right? I mean, let's look at it. Let's go to our normal lives, right? We go and buy phones which have 200, 300 different features. But typically, how many do you really end up using? Not more than 10, 12. And it's the same fundamental that goes into a HR tech platform. You will always, your mind, your subconscious always tends to like the ones which have more features, right? So don't don't fall into a trap of feature fatigue. Look at if you need only 10, buy a platform which offers those 10. Don't get into something which offers 500, which you will never end up using, but paying for. The cost element comes over there. Number two, and the most common and the most deadliest of trap or landmine is siloized decision making, right? So now the camel could sit either ways. The HR buys tools without taking into cognizance the IT or business, or it's the IT who's deciding which technology to bring in for HR without understanding the HR point of view and the employee's point of view, or somebody else calling the shots. It cannot be a silo-wise decision. It has to be a cohesive workforce. Most successful tech stacks or tech implementations from an HR standpoint are the ones where it's a very cohesive and hyper collaborative effort being made by all the stakeholders involved. Number three is about no change management plan, right? You can have the world's best tool with zero adoption, and you can have the world's worst tool with a good adoption. Now, all that matters is let's understand if you get up at 7 o'clock every morning, and tomorrow onwards I tell you, okay, Gurpreet, let's get up at 5 o'clock. You say, why should I? What's in it for me? Why should I do that? It's very difficult to break habits. All right. You are accustomed and used to a certain way of doing things. So whenever you are implementing new tech, you need to have a very robust and a very, very comprehensive change management plan where you need to involve people, make them change champions. The biggest pitfall is HR thinks they are the change champions, or they think the business heads will become change champions. I'm sorry, they are not. You need to find people who are influencers within each and every department, who are early adopters. Use them as people champions. Involve them in your demos. Involve them in your integrations. Involve them in your MVP rollouts. They are the ones who will get you adoption. And this is one example I'm saying. There has to be a very strong and robust change management plan. Trap number 4, or for that matter of fact, the fourth landmine is ignoring integrations. Oh, we'll do it later on. Tech is evolving. Tomorrow something else will come up and we'll integrate. You know, if your tools don't talk, you are just automating silos. You have a list of Avengers. Each one has his or her own specific capability or superpower, but they don't talk. So it might be they're working against each other. They possibly might be cutting into each other's strengths rather than combining strengths. You cannot automate silos. It has to be a cohesive one. And the last but not the least on the major list is vendor lock-ins. And this is very specifically going to the procurement contracting teams. You know, there are certain service providers who make it very hard to exit. So yes, you have to read the fine print. What exactly is there in the contract if you are getting something in? Some make it very difficult, really very difficult, and you are stuck with them for a certain point of time and get into legal hassles as well. So yeah, that happens.
That's quite relatable, especially the feature overload one. I've seen teams paralyzed by choices.
You know, absolutely. I would say always ask this question. What will my people actually use? And sometimes you might not have the answer. It's okay. That's why I say involve people, leverage design thinking. You will get the right answer. Yeah.
So, Anuj, we have explored the trends, the framework, and the traps as well. How does someone make the final call?
That's an interesting one. I would say two things. Number one, anchor to outcomes. If your tool doesn't help you or your KPIs, it's a distraction, it's a waste. So start with outcomes in mind and work backwards. Now, those outcomes could be business outcomes or HR outcomes linked to business outcomes, right? So that's your anchor.
Right.
So whatever, like you said, feature overload, right? Fine. Implementing a feature, what does it do? How does it help? Where in the KPIs is it linking, right? Number two, run a real life pilot, not a sales demo. Don't pick up something from a demo standpoint. A real life use case with real employees, collect feedback, measure usage, and iterate. The MVP, minimum viable product cycle, use that. So if you're going for an external vendor or a partner, have a 90% companies take a demo and kickstart, only to realize, oh, we have bought an elephant. Now what to do? So before you buy that elephant, ensure it can run like a horse. So do a small pilot for a small user group. And the most preferred one is to pick up the toughest customers in your business, right? The ones who are always anti, and use some people who are early adopters. Have a combination of both different personas, involve them in that, and you'll get to know.
Right.
Yeah.
So no blind faith in Gartner magic quadrants?
Well, see, Gartner spends a lot of money and effort in this. So what they're saying is not incorrect. But you need to use them for reference, not as religion. Your context matters more than their ranking, right? So let's understand this. I stay in a village and I need to go to somebody's marriage party in a village, a remote village, right? Would I take out a dinner jacket and wear? Not really. I'll have to wear something that's contextual to the village. Now, reverse the scenario. I'm staying in a cosmopolitan city and now I have to go to a marriage party. There, I might take out a dinner jacket. My choice of clothes, what I wear, is going to be very depending on the context. That's what I'm trying to say. See, whether it's a Gartner quadrant or other reports, they're all right. They evaluate them from a very different lens, right? Your organizational context is very different than those. Right? Now, in the market, if you need to go and buy shades, there are 50 different brands who sell shades, right? Starting from maybe $1,000 to maybe 10 lakhs. What befits your requirement? That's most important. So don't miss the bus on contextualization. That's the most important element. If you miss that, you are in for a roller coaster that you're not going to enjoy, believe you.
Right. So let's do a quick recap. Let's summarize now. HR tech stack is the tools that power your employee lifecycle. Trends include AI, skills first, mobile first, EX platforms. Follow the 5D framework. Avoid traps like siloed buying, ignoring adoption. Choose for impact, not just aesthetics.
True, but don't forget, tools are enablers. Your people are still a strategy. Never, never compromise on that. And that's one of the biggest landmine or biggest trap that most people fall into.
So, HR leaders, what's your current tech stack? What's working and what's just collecting digital dust?
That's a good word, digital dust. Well, drop in your questions in the comments, tag a peer who's evaluating tools, or DM us if you want our HR tech stack audit checklist. We are more than happy to help you and partner with you in your journey.
And of course, like, subscribe, and follow us for more no-nonsense HR Tech wisdom. This is HR Tech Unplugged, where transformation talks like a human. If you have enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe to our channel. Visit ascendara.org for expert consulting on HR digitalization and more. Let's shape the future of work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Signing off and hope to see you all again.